There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a trading floor right before the layoffs start. It's not the loud, dramatic silence of a movie. It's the quiet, nervous energy of 1.09 million employees wondering if they are about to become a statistic. If you work in finance, or you're just trying to figure out where the market is heading, you need to understand the numbers I'm about to show you. The 6 largest U.S. banks, JPMorgan, Bank of America, Citi, Wells Fargo, Goldman, and Morgan Stanley, just slashed their combined headcount by over 10,600 jobs. That is the biggest drop in almost a decade, turning the post-pandemic hiring frenzy into a brutal game of musical chairs. If you don't know which banks are firing and which are quietly hiring, you're going to be left holding the bag. What's up? I'm Stocks and welcome to Stock Sprint. New here? One quick tap on the subscribe button will keep you in the loop. Get your friends to join the Sprint crew by sharing the video. All right, let's get to it. Let's look at the headline data first. A total reduction of 10,600 employees sounds like a lot, but compared to the massive hiring sprees we saw in 2020 and 2021, it's actually a pretty controlled demolition. To put it in perspective, the last time banks cut this many jobs was 2016, when they slashed roughly 22,000 roles. But here is the context that matters. During the pandemic, every bank swelled its ranks. They were drowning in deal fees and low-interest loans. Now, the music has stopped. The deal boom is over, and Wall Street is obsessed with one word: efficiency. We've moved from growth at all costs to how many people can we replace with a server rack. This isn't just about saving money on salaries. It's about preparing for a future where the workforce looks very different. It's like the banks finally realized that having a person manually type by 500 times a day isn't exactly peak innovation. The question isn't just who got fired. The question is who is cutting deep, who is growing anyway, and who is just ghosting their employees until they quit. We're going to break this down bank by bank, starting with the heavy hitters and the turnaround artists. Let's start with the bank that is single-handedly skewing the stats with a historic purge. If you look at the data, Wells Fargo wasn't just cutting jobs. They were conducting a full-scale exorcism. Last year, they reduced headcount by more than 12,000 people. That brings their total workforce down to 205,198. To understand how massive this is, you have to look at the timeline. CEO Charlie Scharf has now overseen 22 consecutive quarters of reductions. Yes, you heard that right. 5.5 years of continuous trimming. Since Scharf took over in Q2 2020, Wells Fargo has cut roughly 25% of its staff. They've gone from over 275,000 employees to just over 205,000. They are now at their lowest employee level since before they bought Wachovia during the 2008 financial crisis. In a recent conference call, Scharf didn't apologize for this. He touted it. He basically said, "We've cut for 22 straight quarters, and guess what? There's more to come." This is the result of a massive turnaround strategy. Wells Fargo is still dealing with the regulatory caps imposed on them by the Federal Reserve due to past scandals. They literally cannot grow their business until they fix their internal controls. So, the easiest lever to pull to improve the balance sheet is the headcount lever. It's a painful process, but for investors, it's working. For employees, however, it feels like being stuck on a slow boat to nowhere. At this rate, by 2028, the only person left at Wells Fargo headquarters will be Charlie Scharf, a skeleton, and a Roomba that's been reprogrammed to file loan paperwork. While Wells Fargo is the poster child for cuts, they aren't the only ones restructuring. Over at Citi, things are getting just as intense, but with a different cultural flavor. Let's move to Citigroup. Citi cut about 3,000 jobs last year, but that number is actually misleading. Because according to Bloomberg reports, they are trimming another 1,000 jobs this week alone. CEO Jane Fraser is in the middle of a massive, painful turnaround of the bank. She's trying to simplify the firm, stripping it down to its core businesses. But the way she's communicating this to her staff is different. It's harsh. On January 15, 2026, Fraser issued an internal memo titled, "The Bar is Raised." I know, we are technically in 2025, but the memo leaked early, signaling the tone for the year. In that memo, she explicitly told staff, "We are not graded on effort." Let me repeat that. We are not graded on effort. This is a massive cultural pivot. For decades, Banking was about tenure and face time. Citi is now pivoting to performance-driven outcomes. They are aggressively integrating AI and automation to handle the effort part of the job, leaving humans to only handle the results. It's a cold metric, but it's efficient. If you're a Citi employee right now, you aren't just worried about being laid off. You're worried about your output being measured against an algorithm. It's like being in a relationship where your partner is an Excel spreadsheet. You can't argue with the numbers, but you definitely don't want to take it out to dinner. So, we have Wells Fargo cutting a quarter of their workforce, and Citi raising the bar to impossible heights. But wait, what about the biggest bank of them all? The titan of Wall Street that seems to be immune to the laws of gravity? While the industry contracted, JPMorgan Chase kept growing. They added employees in 2025. Their workforce grew to 317,233 people. Now, to be fair, this is the slowest pace of growth they've seen since the pandemic started. But in an environment where everyone else is firing, adding 2.36% more staff is practically a hiring spree. Why? Because Jamie Dimon and the gang are printing money in consumer banking, credit cards, and wealth management. JPMorgan is too big to sit still. While other banks are cutting costs to survive, JPMorgan is spending to dominate. They are absorbing market share that smaller or struggling banks are abandoning. However, even JPMorgan has a limit. The fact that their growth has slowed down shows that even the king is feeling the pinch of higher costs. If you look at the numbers, every single bank, regardless of whether they are hiring or firing, is dealing with one massive problem: compensation. Goldman Sachs actually grew their headcount by 2% last year, but their costs skyrocketed anyway because they had to pay their employees more. It turns out, if you want to keep the smart people from leaving, you have to pay them. And that eats into the profit margins that shareholders love so much. But not every bank is firing people or paying massive bonuses. Some are playing a much longer, quieter game. Let's look at Bank of America. They are taking a completely different approach than Wells Fargo or Citi. They aren't doing mass layoffs. They aren't sending scary memos. They are relying on what's called attrition. CEO Brian Moynihan has a simple plan. He's just going to stop hiring. He expects the number of people employed at B of A to drop this year, simply by letting the headcount drift down. Think of it like a leaky bucket. Instead of pouring water out, firing people, they just stop pouring water in, hiring, and let some evaporate. Their CFO, Alastair Borthwick, said that every time someone quits, they assess whether they actually need to be replaced. This is a much more humane, albeit slower, way to downsize. Their turnover rate is low, around 8%, so people aren't quitting in droves. To speed this up, B of A is focusing heavily on internal mobility. Over 40% of their roles are filled internally. They are also investing heavily in AI to boost productivity, not to replace humans, but to make the humans they keep more efficient. It's the corporate equivalent of waiting for your plants to die instead of throwing them out. It's less dramatic, but eventually, the office will look a lot emptier. So, what does this all mean for the economy? It means efficiency is the new religion. We have Wells Fargo performing surgery on its workforce. We have Citi raising the bar so high that employees have to levitate to keep their jobs. We have JPMorgan swallowing the industry whole, slowly but surely. And we have Bank of America quietly turning down the lights and locking the doors behind the last person to leave. The era of endless growth in banking is over. The era of do more with less has begun. If you work in this sector, keep your head down and your productivity up. If you don't, watch these stocks. The banks that cut the deepest usually see the biggest short-term bumps in their share price. But here is the real question. Is this efficiency, or is it just a prelude to the AI takeover we've all been warned about? I want to hear from you. Are you seeing this attrition strategy at your own workplace? Or are the layoffs happening fast and loud? Let me know in the comments below. I read them all. That's today's sprint done. Thank you everyone for watching. If you got value from this video, please feel free to subscribe and share the video with a loved one who may need it. I'm Stocks, and we'll see you on the next Stock Sprint. Have a nice day. Wow, you're still here? You must love the channel. Take a look at this video I think you would like, or you can just watch the latest upload.